Alright, so this particular video, I'm going to do it on the papaya tree real quick because there's basically something that kept mind-boggling me, and I kept trying to do research and really couldn't find anything to solve my issue. But I was having a lot of yellowing leaves underneath, toward the bottom of the plant, and I've also experienced where they got yellow to the point where they turned brown, and I had to keep, just pruning them off. But during the day they would wilt, like on those really hot summer days they would wilt. Now I have about 7 papaya trees right now. Last year I grew them on this bed over here, and here they grew really tall. I mean, this is an open land over here, and basically it grew as tall as this apple tree. But however, frost came, and then I had to clean them out. Basically they died because they don't survive frost, which was a big shame because I was actually very in love with these trees, and I love the way they look. So I decided to grow them in a pot, in a container. Now, one of the things I've been noticing, not particularly with this tree, but more with that tree, I've got about 7 papaya trees that I started from seed. And one of the things about this tree in particular is that you could see that I've done a lot of yellow leaf pruning underneath. Now, this tree was sitting over there, where when the sunlight passes over this way, it gets really hot over here. I mean, the sun beams directly at the tree. Now, these trees love full sun and they love the heat. However, this is a dark pot, and it's a plastic pot, and I'm noticing that as I touch the pot, it was very hot, and these trees actually hold their water in the stem and on the leaves, to the point where if I cut one of these green stems out, I mean, water will literally drip out of it. So I said to myself, well, my tree is not dehydrated, so what's going on? And I watered it, but I was making sure not to overwater it, because these trees like a lot of water, but they don't like to have wet feet. So, if you really think about it, with the sun basically caking up the roots inside that pot, and then I kept, watering it, eventually it was going to create a big problem. Now, I also have this heavily mulched with wood chips underneath. Since these are more like a shallow root on them, I have wood chips underneath, which basically keeps it drier, and then I have these grass clippings on top, just to keep the moisture and the coolness on point. Now, as you see, this is a whole container of grass clippings, and what I do is I mulch all my I mulch everything. Actually, everything has wood chips. I mean, I have a friend who works in a tree company, and as you can see, I basically have my garden is all mulched, okay? And these are going to be future beds over here. But as you see, everything basically is heavily mulched. And that's how I like it, because it mimics nature in the forest. So here's my quick fix. When I moved it from here to here, all right, this has been already 4 days. No more yellow leaves and no more wilting. And the reason why is, look how shaded and cool the pot is right there. I mean, I'm touching this pot and it's nice and cool over here, okay, where versus over there it was actually extremely hot. I didn't have a problem with this one like that, because this one's sitting over here where it's a little bit more shaded, and there's a lot of obstacles going on, blocking the sunlight from hitting directly the pot. However, this is also a light color pot. The other one's a dark color pot. But as you can see, full sun on top, the bottom is nice and shaded, and the sun passes over, but as it's passing over, it doesn't hit the pot directly. Now, as you can see, also I did a nice heavy pruning here of the top leaves. See, I didn't have a problem necessarily with the lower leaves as much, more or less with the top leaves. And the reason I cut these is because this crown right here was yellow, and after a couple of days, I mean, now it's green, and aside from that, I can already see the crown growing. This was actually a much smaller crown, and the leaves that were growing over here were blocking the sunlight from this crown. So I want this to get a little bit taller, and I know that there's pros and cons to keeping the tree a little bit shorter, especially if it's in a container. The bigger the tree, the bigger the roots. But I know this is going to actually do well if it gets just a little bit bigger. So I pruned those leaves out. And right now what's going to happen is, because this was really bushy, and now it's going to basically canopy the entire thing again. Now the reason is that I want this to grow and the tree gets a little bit taller, you know, so that's why I cut all those leaves up on top, and it looks like it's doing very well. The crowns are growing. This is a 2 main stem system over on this one, which another little one is actually forming down here. This one's got a 3 stem system over here, as you can see. And I did some pruning where I cut most of the laterals from the sides over here. It was also blocking that crown right there. So the leaf that I just showed you from that lateral came over here and blocked that crown. And now, as you can see, as the sun comes over, okay, you can see that it's getting light up on top. So now the crown has the ability to grow. And that's on a 3 main stem system on this one. This is a nice sized trunk. You could tell these are very healthy trees. I've got a few more actually, not a couple more, but a few more that I'll be transplanting soon. This one I've got over here in a fabric bag, and it's doing very nice. I started this from seed. I'm gonna put this in a bigger pot. In about another week I'll do it. This one's, I just transplanted this one into a bigger pot, as you can see. It's also doing very nicely. Looks very healthy, green, strong trunk already. I'm gonna prune out those little sections out of it. I've got another one over here. I've got another one over here in a wooden barrel, and this is my youngest one, but it looks like it's doing very nicely also. So these trunks, you want them to get very big and strong. So, you know, the way to do that, of course, is having very nutritious soil. These are very heavy feeders. I don't feed none of my plants actually. I actually compost, and the soil is actually, you know, regular potting soil mixed with a lot of compost. I've got organic matter sitting on top, so this is constantly getting organic nutrients, and it's also created the perfect ecosystem for, you know, things to thrive. So that's all I really wanted to cover. It's basically, a lot of times when you do research on those little lower leaves, they talk about viral diseases and whatnot, and then people start doing crazy things because they start getting all bent out of shape, and then they start ruining their tree because they start treating it as if it was a viral disease, where sometimes it just takes for you to just like look at what's going on with your plant. Your plant's going to tell you when it's uncomfortable, or your tree, or whatever it may be. And this is my fig tree over here. See a fig already. Look, they're already starting to ripen up, you see. But anyway, it's going to show you when it's got signs of uncomfort. So, you know, when it was sitting there, I mean, it just took me just touching the pot to say, wow, this is very hot. The trunk is big on this. I can imagine the root system is pretty big in there also. And for that pot to get hot, you know, it would make sense that it would evaporate the water from the leaves, because it's trying to basically grab as much water to stay hydrated as possible. Aside from that, the air was dry, so, you know, it makes sense that the entire plant would wilt. You have to be very careful not to overwater. They do like a lot of water, but not overwater. That's why it's important to have a well draining soil, and, you know, the proper mixture of things with organic matter. See, the point of the wood chips and the grass clippings is that they actually keep the excess water from just sitting there. It actually sucks up the water, and that's why I put the wood chips underneath. These are all wood chips under there, and then I put the grass clippings on top. That actually adds nitrogen to it also, and every other nutrient that it needs is getting it from the compost. All right, so we'll talk soon.